Hello and welcome back to the Growth Vantage podcast. My name is Garrett Vita and I'm your host. Today's topic, I am so excited to talk about this. What's your transfer threshold? The reason I want to talk about this is if you're having a really hard time really adapting, or you're really noticing that you're falling into the same mistakes, or you're making the same mistakes that you had in the past and you aren't learning from it, or you're really just noticing that a lot of emotions are really just overwhelming you from the past, or scared to do move forward because of something from the past, then this is the episode for you. When we think about things in life, from one segment to the other, we have different eras in our lives. This transfer threshold is so important to be aware of and to identify. When we think about the various periods, it could be, for grand scheme things, example could be elementary to middle school to high school to college and post college. When you really think about each of those periods, in between each, there's a transfer threshold. This could be applied to anything else, whether you're investing, whether you're going from single family to wholesaling to long term holds to development to building bigger commercials. Each one of those segments that you go through life has a different segment and transfer threshold. And the hard thing is that there's no buttons, there's no warning signs, there's no billboards or anyone that's going to tell you, hey, be aware of your transfer threshold. Be aware of what you're transferring over. When we think about each of these periods and in any contracts for life, we want to really consider from each period a few things. What are we transferring over? From our emotions? Are there any behaviors? And what are those past experiences and thoughts? Those are some things that I like to think about when I'm going from various periods into maybe something new, something different. It doesn't matter what it is. When we start to think about all of those things and combine with the emotions that are engulfed in those, we can really start to really shorten that threshold. One thing I've noticed is that throughout life, that as you get older, wiser, start doing things, you really want that threshold to get smaller and smaller and smaller. The reason why is because the shorter time frames and the threshold is, the sooner we can actually learn and move forward and really go to our potential instead of holding ourselves back, instead of having all these negative thoughts, instead of making the same silly mistakes. Shorten that threshold so that you can move quicker, faster, more efficiently, less emotions, so that you can get to whatever the goal is next. So when we think about that threshold, I want you to think about what is it going to be transferred over. So let's say for an investment standpoint, so say you're going from single family houses to multifamily. Let's say in that scenario you had a bad experience with single family. Maybe you had a partner that was being shady. Maybe you screwed up paying way too much to a contractor and they had run away from it, or you just made a silly mistake. You just picked the wrong paint. It doesn't matter what it is. If you think about from that experience, what can potentially move over, and so it's important to really think about. And for me, I like to think about like what are the emotions really going to be transferred, because that's usually a big determining factor on how the next thing is going to be transferred over to the next thing I'm going into. So from single family to, let's say, multifamily. If we had bad experiences from our single family experience, those emotions can really deter us into making decisions that we need to within the multifamily space. And so let me give you guys an example of this whole thing to make it a little easier and put it everything into context. So I was actually getting into a partnership with another guy, and so just a little background about the other guy. So long story short, he ended up getting screwed over by somebody that he lost a lot of money from it, and so we came into this partnership, and so we're about to close escrow on a property, and so I when I initially got the lot under contract, it was under my personal name, and so we went to that partnership, really creating an LLC so that all of our names can be in it, and so we can, all help. We can help each other, and and such. And so when I went to the escrow company and I said, hey, there's actually it's not just me. I have a few partners. Can we switch my personal name to this entity? And so yeah, sure, just have them sign it as well. And so when I sent him this information, hey, escrow wants you to sign it as well, yada yada yada. It went south after that because, long story short, he felt that I was being shady and that I was trying to put him in a financial distress, and put him into make him have more liability, when in reality we were just on the wrong we had miscommunication on how we wanted to proceed with that. So he thought we're once I closed under my own LLC that we'd transfer it over to our entity partnership, but I was on the impression that we just do at the close of escrow to save time and stuff. And so, due to me asking him, "Hey, sign it," it really caused him to be on edge, very emotional, and he pretty much said, "Garrett, I don't want any part of you," without really wanting to get to know the answer. At the moment when he told me, I was really shocked about like why this happened. So he ended up leaving early. I just stood there really contemplating what happened, and so from that experience, it was so interesting to see how the emotion from the loss that he had from that deal. I don't know how many years ago that he lost money. That emotion of distrust, whatever you want to call it, transferred over to our partnership when in reality, I was not trying to backstab him. I was not trying to get him more money from him. It was just both. It was honestly a miscommunication on our ends, and so it made that relationship really sour, which kind of sucks. At the end of the day, I wasn't really trying to screw anyone over. I just thought that would be best and most efficient for us at that time, and so it's so important when we go into new experiences or whatever we're doing to really take in consideration what are the emotions, what are the past experiences, what are those thoughts that are can negatively affect me making the right decision or not give me the right information to make a decision. And so from that learning experience, I've learned that it's so important to really understand from the past what's going to be transferred so that I know moving forward I don't want to be taking that forward. I want to have a clean slate. I can think more clearly and really make the goals faster and reach my potential faster. Remember, take time to understand what your transfer threshold is. Once we get a better identifying and dealing with that emotion, that threshold gets smaller, smaller, and smaller. So that it allows you to really move quicker and accept losses faster, and so you can move on. No matter how much money or what other losses, those losses won't feel as big, and so that you can really think clearly and move towards your greater self. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I can't wait to see you guys next time, and you guys take care.